Hello, movie enthusiasts! Welcome to yet another exciting movie recap, where we are going to go over a historical war drama called Europa, a 1990 movie based on a young Jewish teenager called Salek, who pretends to be a German in order to survive the excruciatingly abhorrent circumstances that took place during the Holocaust. We first see the protagonist, Salek, during his circumcision ceremony as a baby. He recounts that he could remember the details of the ceremony and that he shared Adolf Hitler's birthday. 13 years later, as he gets ready for his bar mitzvah, or coming-of-age ceremony, he takes a bath. He peeks out the window as members of the Hitler Youth march through the streets. One of them sticks his tongue out at him, and he follows suit. He then immerses himself in the bathtub before reading, and before long, Berta, his sister, calls on him to hurry. Suddenly, the extremists start shattering the windows of his home, and he runs outside in panic. He hides in a barrel until nightfall when a neighbor finds him there and asks to bring him some clothes, but she is not allowed inside. She then takes a Nazi uniform from a carriage and gives it to him. He puts it on and returns home to discover that his sister was killed. The family then moved to Poland, the birthplace of his father, in the hopes that it would be safer there. They lived above a movie theater in Poland, where the hunchback woman owner befriends Salek and lets him in the theater free of cost. Soon after the war breaks out, Salek's parents send him and his brother away. They begin to leave, but the theater owner follows them and bids them farewell. By the time night falls, they've arrived at the riverbank, where Salek loses contact with his brother. Salek successfully boards the boat first. During the ride, another boat passes by and informs them that Hitler and Stalin have teamed up and that the Bolsheviks and the Russian army are waiting for them on the other side. The Polish passengers leap from the boat, preferring to be ruled by Hitler rather than Stalin, while the Jews have some opposite sentiments and thus swim in the direction of the Bolsheviks. Salek slips into the river due to all of the commotion. The Russians save him, and he waits for his brother, who never shows up the next day. Salek then finds himself in a Soviet orphanage, where he spent 2 years with other children from Russia and Poland who were Jewish. During his time at the orphanage with those children, Salek managed to learn the ideologies of the Soviet Union and communism. Despite being separated from his parents, Salek was able to receive letters from his parents because of the agreement between Hitler and Stalin. They informed him that they were fine but had to move away. When asked about his class origins, Salek responds that his father owned a magazine store and that one of them calls him upper class. He quickly tells them that he'll work hard to prove himself worthy despite this. A female instructor named Ina backs him up in this argument. He leaves the room, where he is confronted by one of his Polish peers, who calls him a Stalin puppet. Later that evening, Salek spies on Ina's room from the outside after becoming attracted to her during the class session. The Polish boy then voices his concern that he is against the teachings of the orphanage. He says that he believes in God, while the orphanage is teaching them that God does not exist. The instructor Ina challenges him upon hearing this. She tells the Polish boy to pray to his God to drop candies from the sky. The Polish boy does, but to no avail. Ina then tells the other students to ask Stalin for candies, and soon candies are dropped from the ceiling vents. Suddenly, explosions can be heard from outside, and one of the staff announces that Hitler has invaded Russia. After marching across the fields with Ina, the orphanage students hijack a vehicle to flee, but an airstrike occurs close by, forcing Salek to take shelter beneath the truck. While the troops are lined up, they separate the Jews and put them into a vehicle. The truck leaves Salek behind, and the Germans catch him. Salek denies being a Jew and claims that his documents were stolen. Claiming to be of German ethnicity and having grown up in the Grodno orphanage, he justifies his Russian and German skills. He tells them that his name is Joseph Peters, and the other soldiers nickname him Jump. When they learn that the man they were accused of being a Jew is, in fact, Stalin's son, the soldiers become even more favorable towards Salek. They take a victory photo and allow him to join, calling him their lucky charm. He arrives at their camp where the other boys from the orphanage end up. The Polish boy, who also ended up there, tries to out Salek as a Jew, but the soldiers don't understand. Salek takes no time and slaps him, and the furious boy leaps over the fence to attack him. The soldiers try to pursue him, but the Polish boy escapes and gets run over by a truck. Salek faints in shock. A scene shows Stalin and Hitler's friendship before they turned on each other. Salek is welcomed by the soldiers, but he hides from them when he pees or takes a bath so they won't find out he's a Jew. One day, the captain asks to see him. The captain starts questioning him about his past before offering him a place to stay as their interpreter. During one of their patrolling rounds, they find two small children hanged by the Russians. Salek's companion tells him to look at them and find in his soul to hate them. A troubled Salek then ponders over the difference between his enemies and friends. He burns his identity documents, and Robert, a soldier, joins him in front of the fire. They become closer when Salek finds out that Robert is an actor, since it was one of Salek's dreams to become an actor himself. The following morning, he bathes by himself in the shed. Robert tries to harass him sexually, but he flees, and Robert discovers that he has had his circumcision. Robert takes this moment to apologize to Salek and tries to comfort him, stating that he is gay, which is equally punishable under German law. The two become even closer friends after this. However, Robert eventually dies after being shot, along with two of Salek's other close companions. Salek attempts to turn himself in to the Soviet soldiers. They give him directions to carry a rifle and cross a bridge so that they will identify him. He complies with the orders at night, but the Soviet soldiers unexpectedly surrender, leading the other German soldiers to believe he was trying to charge at the enemy alone. They commend him for his bravery, and the captain decides to send him to a prestigious German school. He also informs Salek that, since they are childless, he and his wife intend to adopt him after the war. After arriving in Germany, he meets the other students and takes an oath of loyalty to Hitler and the nation. He meets Gerd, who is tasked with helping him adjust, and at one mealtime, he is exposed to some German propaganda while meeting other students. He also meets Lenny, a cafeteria waitress at the school. One typical day in class, the instructor happens to be teaching the students how to recognize a Jew by their appearance and mannerisms. He claims that science can distinguish Jews from non-Jews perfectly, and he asks Salek to come up front to show this. The teacher measures Salek's head and notes the color of his eyes and his facial features. He then reports to the class his findings that Salek is German, despite having mixed blood and features common to the East Baltic race. As soon as the students learn that the Germans lost the Battle of Stalingrad, they assemble and start singing the national anthem. Lenny and Salek are becoming closer in the meantime, but he never pushed for too much intimacy with her to avoid getting caught. One day, they went for a stroll around the streets, as Salek's buddy complimented the equal chances provided to young guys in Germany. Lenny and Salek begin flirting in front of him, which makes the guy envious. Before departing, Lenny jokingly hides behind her sweatshirt, which offers Salek an idea of how to alter his privates to better mix in with the Germans, even if this hurts him. She soon brings Salek to meet her mother, and they dine together at one table. On the way home, they come across a Jewish cemetery. Lenny tells him that she would cut a Jew's throat if she ever saw one. This infuriates Salek, which causes him to slap her. She then calls him up limp dick before striding away. Later that night, Salek has a nightmare about his family as his sister tells him to look for his remaining family at their address in Poland. Salek then decides to look for his family. He arrives at the ghetto but is told to take the bus instead. Despite the windows being tainted, he finds a small opening through which he sees a woman. Salek suspects this woman to be her mother but is not able to confirm, despite taking the trip on the bus multiple times. Salek visits Lenny's mother, who informs him that Lenny is rarely home. When Salek turns to leave, she invites him inside, and she reveals to him that Lenny is pregnant and that she had been trying to conceive to give her child to the Führer. Lenny's mother is reassured by Salek that Lenny didn't find it easy to avoid her. Salek refuses to believe it when he learns that the child's father is Gerd. Her mother tries to explain that Lenny wanted to ensure the child would be racially pure for the child to be accepted in the Lebensborn program. Lenny also seems to have made advances toward Gerd because she was never approached by Salek. Her mother had attempted to explain to her at the time that it was because he respected her, but she had her own doubts that this was not the case. He then breaks down in tears and tells her that he is a Jew rather than German. Lenny's mother consoles him by saying that she knew this from the beginning and promises not to share his secret with anyone. Later, he returns to his room and begins beating Gerd for having an intimate relationship with Lenny. As one of their supervisors walks into the room, Salek is told to go to the police and give them his paperwork. In a panic, Salek asks why, to which the supervisor responds that they simply needed to clarify a few things. The following day, he visits the office and shows them the documents he has. They then request his German purity certificate, which he replies he left back at the Grodno orphanage. The official then promises to write to Grodno for the certificate to be sent to them. He also informs Salek of Germany's plan to stage a retreat to win the war. Fearing that he would soon be exposed, he leaves the office and is about to meet with Gerd outside when an airstrike occurs. Salek survives, but Gerd dies, keeping him safe from being identified as a Jew. As the war intensifies and the students are compelled to join the battle, he is ordered to shoot an enemy, but he hesitates. He eventually eventually escapes, dodging the bullets shot at him by the other students. He goes outside and gives himself over to the Russians. Salek tells them he was part of the communist movement and that he learned Russian at the orphanage. The soldier accuses Salek of being a traitor and a spy, but Salek explains that he is just trying to survive as a Jew. They then display images of the Jews who were killed during the Holocaust. Salek informs them that he was informed the Jews would just be sent to another nation. Therefore, he was unaware of it. One of the captives is given a gun by a soldier, allowing the other convicts to shoot Salek. One of the prisoners turns to face Salek, who has just been freed from a concentration camp. It turns out that he is his brother. Later, Salek's brother informs him that their parents have already passed away. The brother also advises Salek not to tell anyone about their ordeal because no one would believe it. The prisoner asks for Salek's help to get up, and they take a piss together freely, without worrying about being caught. They soon move to Palestine, where Salek chose to fully embrace his Jewish identity. He also doesn't hesitate to pass on his beliefs to his children. The movie ends with Salek singing a Jewish folk song. If you are a fan of great movies and love to have some movie recommendations, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content.